Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adoptions from the Heart TV. I'm your host, Amanda Aliberti. Today, we are going to be sitting down with Denise and Peter, who are going to share their experience of adopting their son, Clayton. So welcome to Denise and Peter.
Thank you.
Can you guys start by sharing when you both first decided that adoption was the right path?
Well, I decided first. And then it was, I had several cousins that were adopted. So it seemed kind of natural to me. It wasn't anything kind of out of my ordinary realm. And I was ready to have kids, and it wasn't happening for us. And so we talked about it, and it took a while, but we finally decided that we didn't want to live a life without children. So we finally came to the conclusion this was something we were going to look at.
And back in 2002, what had been your expectation or perception of what open adoption would look like?
I don't know. I don't know that I thought that there was a difference between open and closed. Like my cousin, because my experience, I guess, kind of shaped that. My cousins knew their birth families, their birth moms, their birth mothers were at their birthday parties and were very much involved in their life. So for me, it seemed kind of natural.
I'm trying to remember because that was a very long time ago, but the choice that we had of closed versus open, and they really felt at the time it was Stephanie felt that open was the better way to go because it opened you up to more opportunities, so to speak, for the birth mothers. So I think that was kind of a deciding factor, and also we felt we wanted to have some sort of relationship with the birth mother. So we didn't want like a co-parenting situation. We did want the child to know that their parents and have that a relationship with borders, I think you said. So
yeah, sure. And then talk to us a little bit about when you were placed with your son, what year that was, how things went.
Gosh, it's gonna make me cry because every time I think about it, it makes me cry. It was just like the best day ever. We had been on the list for quite some time. So it was a snowy morning. I remember it. I have the little paper that I wrote everything down on when I got the phone call that Adoptions from the Heart, and I didn't recognize the number. So when I called back, I got, "Hello, Adoptions from the Heart." And I was like, my heart just dropped. No, I think it was Stephanie was the one who actually got to tell me. And I wrote everything down and I said to her, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited." I said, "But you have to call Peter for me because he's going to have questions and I don't have all the answers." And it was crazy. And then I was able to talk to Peter again, and it was very cool. It was very exciting. I had a hard time working the rest of the day, and that was in December. And then we knew Clayton wasn't going to be born until March. So it was a long waiting.
Was it December 2003?
Yeah.
Because it was 18 months we were in the program. And then we were selected by Lisa, and then it was December?
It was December. I'll never forget the weekend.
Oh, okay. So yeah, December.
Yeah.
And then he was born in March. So
yeah, he was C-section, so we knew the day.
And we knew it was going to be a boy because she slipped and told us it was a boy, so I was happy.
So we were good.
I would have been happy with anything. But.
Can you guys share a little bit about your experience with the birth mom around that time frame and kind of what your relationship looked like?
We got to meet her 2 times before he was born. We got to visit with her and the social worker. My biggest fear was, what if she takes one look at us and like hightails it out of the restaurant? It was very nerve-wracking. We had lots of just family support and friend support, people who walked alongside of us through our whole adoption journey. So that was comforting and that was great. And Stephanie, our social worker, she's amazing. So she's like, "It's okay. We're just going to go meet her. We're just having a dinner." And the first thing she did, we sat down, she handed me his ultrasound picture. And I was done. Just tears of joy and just getting to see his little face. It was very emotional, but it was nice to meet her. We were lucky, very fortunate that we were able to meet her ahead of time and just get to know her a little bit. And then we had dinner again a little bit before he was born. So that was neat. And then she allowed us to come to the hospital. It was perfect. I was there when he was born. I was in the OR with her. It made for a nice little kind of relationship. So when we spent time with her in the hospital, it was a little bit better because we had known her a little bit, not a lot, but a little. So that was good.
And we got to meet her parents.
Yeah, we did. We met her parents.
That was interesting.
In the hospital.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And so Clayton is 18 now?
He is 18, yeah.
Tell me what the last 18 years has looked like in terms of your relationship with the biological family.
We've only had the relationship with the mother the first 3-4 years. it was a yearly thing, also sending her pictures on a quarterly basis as well. So there was a little bit more interaction. And then as he got a little bit older and she was having additional children, it kind of backed off significantly, and we still sent her letters and pictures, and then kind of slowed down towards the past 5 or so years.
Some of that was Clayton. We kind of left it in his court, you know, whether he wanted to see her this year or not. And, you know, he went through his rough teen years at the beginning and just kind of was like, nah, I'm good. You know, I'm okay. So it's been a couple of years since we've seen her, but we have kept up with, but we've allowed them to email as he's gotten a little bit older, but I don't know that she's really emailed him all that much. But we've left it a lot in his court because this is his story.
Sure. Well, and that's something that folks don't always think about when they're thinking about the future, right? So like, you may have this great plan, this expectation of what the future contact is going to look like, but ultimately, as that child grows up, if he or she is not necessarily in a place of wanting that connection, we also have to think about their best interest and what they want, right?
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
Lisa didn't really want, I don't know exactly what was happening on her side. So therefore the contact kind of dropped off because there wasn't, we had made attempt for, I think it was 3 years in a row to meet her in Christiana, and she never showed up. So it wasn't beneficial for Clay because he would keep asking each time, what's going on? Yeah, so we're like, okay, this isn't helping his development. So we need to move on from this, but are open to conversations of how we can progress forward, which we did a little bit later on where we met her at the picnic. And
along with Samantha and their younger sister.
Right.
Okay. And so one of the things we've been kind of talking about at the agency within the last several years is this idea of inconsistent openness, right? So if you don't have routine, regular, stable contact with your birth parent, sometimes that can cause for just like friction in the future, right? So if it's not been the same way every year and maybe the birth parent falls off for a minute for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe they are going through something on their own, or maybe having other kids, or just going through their own life changes. Sometimes that can affect the relationship and the dynamic. Can you guys talk about, even if that were to occur or have occurred for you guys, how you are able to still provide that open relationship and keep that door open for your son to have a connection to his birth family if and when he wants it? Like the importance of still having that.
Yeah. We've never said to him, you can't see, you know, we've never kind of downplayed that relationship. We've always talked about how important that relationship is, that she is his birth mom. She's the reason that he is here. That was a choice she made. And we will always be grateful to her for that. And that he is welcome whenever he wants. We can, we set up the email. We, you can write her a letter. And I think he did a couple of times write her a letter along with my letter of just kind of like what was going on in pictures. So we've encouraged the relationship. We've also had to tell him that sometimes maybe her life is a little chaotic, and it's okay that people have their own things that they're going through, and maybe she's just not able this time, but that she may be at another time. So we kind of just did it that way and just let him know it's okay, like either way.
And that's a good description of the relationship, is inconsistent. It was consistent in the beginning, but it became inconsistent to almost non-existent. However, exactly what you're saying and what she's saying is, we've never shut the door. We've left it open. We're like, hey, the door's open, but we need everybody's interest is there. Clay's interest, our interest, and all that stuff is there. So it's not like we're saying no. If she calls, never act. We want that openness. So I think that's an important aspect of it too. Is while it might be inconsistent, it's always open and there.
When you don't want it to become a hurtful relationship, like she talked to me last year. Why is she not talking to me this year? Why does she not want to see me now? So you have to put in some boundaries and some protections for your child.
Yeah. I'm curious if you have any advice for other parents who may be struggling in this department. Maybe things have happened over the years where birth parent has pulled back. And as a result of that, as a parent, you find it really difficult to keep that door open to allow for any future contact, even if your child asks for it or wants it. So what advice would you have for those folks who are struggling with that?
Be patient.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. And just, depending on the child's age, just let them, like I said, sometimes life gets really complicated, and birth parents' lives are just as complicated as all of ours. And I think it was emotionally a lot for her. You have to remember, they placed their child, they're missing all those things and all those years. And for them to come see them, maybe there's times in their lives it's hard, and they just emotionally are having a hard time. It doesn't have anything to do with the worth of the child or the relationship that wants to be there or should be there or how much they love them. It can be difficult. It's a relationship I think we talked to our social worker about a few times to help us gain perspective on how do you do this? Because, Stephanie. We talked to Stephanie a lot. Like, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we keep this door open? And I always want to encourage anybody, if you're having issues with it, talk to your social worker.
You need to be flexible with that open relationship, not hard line. I'm going to stick to it, and this is all I'm going to do. We're not going to go either way, because you have to have some sort of flexibility.
Sure. So oftentimes when birth parents choose adoption, they may have other children that they are parenting and or may go on to have other future children that they choose to parent after they place. What has been your experience with that? From my understanding, Clayton does have siblings who were both placed for adoption as well as being parented by his biological mother. What has been your experience with that? Any thoughts about those other kids?
Samantha's the oldest, and we've met her several times. We met her in the hospital for the very first time when Clay was born. Yeah, she was there. I remember. So we've gotten to see her a few times now as she's older. She's very interested in her siblings. At the picnic the last time, she asked a lot of questions to Clayton and to JC, the younger ones. They have a brother, Brian, who's in the middle between, and he was placed for adoption as well. And then there's JC, who's younger. And so we've met all of them. So that is really cool for Clayton to know all of them.
Has there ever been any sort of conversation in your family about the other kids that were placed and or the child who stayed with their mother?
I think Clayton's a couple of times said, why did she place me and not Samantha? And, you just kind of explain to them that they were at a different place maybe when you were born, that they realized that they are having a hard time parenting one or two other children, that they just are not able to continue parenting more children. And they wanted to make sure that this child, whoever they were placing, was in a good situation and just felt like they couldn't provide. It did, and it doesn't tie to how much they love you, so that we kind of explained it to them that way, if that makes sense.
Sure. And then I also wanted to ask you guys, what race does Clayton identify as?
Biracial. He'll tell you he's both.
He's both. And you two are Caucasian?
Yep.
Okay. What has been your experience parenting transracially? Has that ever come up at any point from family, friends, community, just any questions or anything that has come about that you have had to deal with over the years?
Clayton and I probably over the last 2 years have had this discussion about us being Caucasian and him being biracial. And when you ask him, he says he's biracial. And I say to him, why is it not a big deal to you? Because he'll say, I don't care. It doesn't bother him being raised by Caucasian parents and he's biracial. He said, because we've never made it a big deal. We've never really made it that it's an issue. So it's not an issue to him.
Was he surrounded by other folks who identify as the same race as him growing up?
His school is very culturally diverse. There's lots of kids that look like him. He has cousins who are biracial. So
very normalized in your family environment to be of different races.
And this community has seemed to not have an issue with that. I mean, we have in this neighborhood alone multiple racial ethnicities.
And his friend group is very diverse.
Yeah.
Because you wonder, is this affecting him, as especially through his teenage years? He's adopted, he's biracial, he's so we've had talks about it. So
it's not every day that we have the opportunity to speak with families who have adopted several years ago, right? So Clayton has now become a young adult at the age of 18. I'm curious if you have just any advice, or if you were to be able to go back in time, anything you would have done differently, or something you've learned in your journey of adoption, whether it's related to openness, adoption in general, transracial adoption, anything you want to put out there to our audience members.
I would just say, follow your heart, where you're led, and just, I don't know if there's anything I'd do differently. I would have liked him sooner, but it took forever, it seems like, but had to learn to enjoy the journey, which was really, really difficult getting there. Yeah. Once he got here, it was just a whirlwind. I can't believe he's 18 and just enjoying every single day with them. They're such a blessing and they're such a God's gift. It was hard to wait. Yeah. Just be patient. It's coming. It'll come.
Patient and flexible.
I guess the other thing I would say is that just be honest with your child about their story. Clayton has learned his adoption story since he was a baby. Like, I was always telling him his story. We were always talking about it. And we share our story all the time. People, it's really interesting to me that people are really like, can I ask you about your adoption? Like, it's like, you're not supposed to talk about it. And I was like, I'll tell you all day, every day. You're going to be sorry you asked, because I will tell you every detail. But yeah, I'm surprised how many people just tiptoe around the idea of adoption. And I guess generationally in the past, it's just been such a taboo thing to talk about.
Well, and I think that's why we have platforms such as AFTHtv, so that folks can share their personal stories and we can normalize and kind of decrease the taboo around certain topics pertaining to adoption. You guys seem like an amazing family. I really think you guys are dedicated parents, and you've maintained great open relationships with Clayton's biological family, which is ultimately going to help him as he continues to grow. So we are thankful and appreciative of you, and just happy that you've been able to share your experience. So thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome.
You.
Thanks so much, and be sure to tune in to our next episode.